Though the wrestlers that we're going to talk about on this list clearly thought they were about to debut a look that would leave jaws dangling, unleash a shot that would elicit an audible gasp, or throw out a WrestleMania entrance that would be instantly immortalized, well, the opposite ended up happening. This lot just looked like they were either trying too hard or hadn't fully considered just how silly their chosen gear, entrances, or words really were. So I am Gareth, you're watching What Culture Wrestling, and here are 11 humiliating times wrestlers tried to look cool and turned into clowns. Also, a quick salute to the terrific post on R² Circle that inspired the list you're about to watch. Number 11, the Nightmare Family boldly go. An entrance remembered more today for the sight of poor Pharaoh being terrified by the pyro. That distressing visual largely pulled attention away from Cody Rhodes and the Nightmare Family's interesting attire of choice. The American Nightmare and Shawn Spears were involved in a pretty intense feud coming into All Out 2019, with the latter controversially cracking Rhodes over the head with a steel chair in the build-up. And that is what made the arrival of the AEW EVP and his allies in full Nightmare Trek gear feel a little, well, odd. In case it wasn't clear, Cody is a big lover of Star Trek. He even noted in 2023 that he'd love to play anyone in a Star Trek project. Now that's all fine, but it was still hard to shake the feeling of this being a little goofy for such a personal battle. Rhodes likely felt like the coolest man alive as he strutted out alongside the rest of his crew here. However, this Star Trek tribute undermined the intensity of the whole scenario, and just felt like the sort of entrance you'd throw out on a Halloween special. Number 10, Edge grows wings for the show of shows. WrestleMania is the night for bold entrance swings, folks. However, as this list will show, sometimes said attempts to hit a home run turn into rather embarrassing misses. For every spectacular Shawn Michaels zipline and awesome live music performance, there have been things like whatever the hell the Rated R Superstar attempted at WrestleMania 39, before his Hell in a Cell match with Finn Balor. During his last run in WWE, Edge began tipping his cap to the past, evidently hoping that folks of a certain age would get a kick out of him going full Brood again after so many years. And on a number of occasions, this led to the former world champion unleashing a fiery arrival within a stadium. Now, his SummerSlam 2021 return to Brood life was actually well handled, with Edge rising from the flames in his trench coat wearing his trusty shades. But that successful blast from the past unfortunately set the stage for him to turn things up a notch at the show of shows, growing a set of dumb gigantic wings and donning a shiny helmet mask thing that made him look like an extra in another deeply uncool Mania entrance that we will get to later. The whole thing just screamed, "Look how badass I am, guys, really, look at me," as Slayer blasted in the background. Perhaps it would have looked cooler had the sun been down. He just looked like an awkward metallic bird in broad daylight. Thankfully, on both of the aforementioned occasions, the Brood prelude was ultimately followed by good old Rated R Metalingus, acting as a nice double whammy at the biggest party of the summer, but a coolness life raft on the grandest stage of them all. I was so glad to hear it. Alright, speaking of WrestleMania entrances, I want to know right now, what do you think is the greatest WrestleMania entrance of all time? It's probably not going to be the Edge one from WrestleMania 39, but let me know what is in the comments below. Number 9, Nikos Ricos outfit fail in NXT. It is important to do whatever you can to stand out from the rest of the pack in the competitive world of professional wrestling. Some do this by sporting a peculiar haircut, others show off a ridiculous finishing move. And then there are those that opt to boast unique in-ring gear that forces you to sit up and take notice. Unique is certainly one word you could use to describe Nikos Ricos' wrestling outfit. Another would be hideous. With a Greek flag slapped on his stomach, the lad from New Jersey strutted into NXT back in 2019, with quite possibly the worst looking gear in developmental history, perhaps even wrestling history. Going full Zack Ryder with the one-legged tight, Ricos then chose to ill-advisedly combine that with a left arm/torso sleeve. The shiny black getup is definitely unlike any attire you've ever likely seen before, but there's a reason for that. No one else on planet Earth would possibly think that going half gold dust was a strong, captivating look. Ricos did though, and that was precisely why he proudly walked into his Keith Lee match looking like the cat who got the cream, and a clown. Number 8, CM Punk fires shots at AEW to silence. A slightly different kind of entry next. One one focusing more on words than clothing or entrances. The best in the world has not exactly wasted any opportunity to fire a shot at his old workplace in the time since his messy AEW departure in 2023. In CM Punk's mind, throwing cheeky digs at Tony Khan's company in his WWE promos is the sort of edgy work that has helped make him one of the coolest and most popular performers of all time. However, in reality, they've not really landed in the way he'd have hoped. Judging from the lack of any real reaction to comments alluding to his backstage scraps in AEW or that promotion's crowd size, it seems like the average WWE fan doesn't really know about all this drama or care enough to react to the petty slights. And those who are aware of what Punk's trying to achieve with them have just been left wincing at an iconic worker swinging and missing with failed zingers. The Punker needs to really stick to blasting Hulkamania and generally keeping the focus on the stories being told inside of WWE's walls. Anything else is just wasted energy at this point and does more damage to him than the company he's attacking. Number 7. John Cena wears jorts in his Mafia. Oh yeah, speaking of CM Punk, the best in the world was actually present in the following unintentionally silly entrance. Back at WrestleMania 22, the Punker was one of the extras seen hanging from the side of a car, with said blokes playing John Cena's fellow Mafia or Chain Gang members. You could see what WWE and Cena were going for here, and those initial moments actually worked quite well as everyone involved looked the part, wandering around in their slick suits and holding their Tommy guns. Then, the face that runs the place walked out. He had the fedora, he had the coat, he had the weapon. What he didn't have, however, was the aforementioned three-piece. Instead, Cena just stood there looking like a kid who'd found his papa's jacket and decided to play dress-up. If Big Match John really didn't feel like going for the tear-off suit option, then surely just throwing on the hat and shooting off a few rounds would have sufficed. Opting for the jorts jacket combo did him no favors here, and it was almost as embarrassing as the chorus of boos that met the supposed babyface hero that night in Chicago. If you're having fun with this silly little video today, then tap that subscribe button down below for more of this fun What Culture Wrestling stuff. Number 6. Triple H terminates his aura. The guy stood opposite John Cena that night in Chicago was none other than Triple H, a person who also doesn't have the best track record when it comes to throwing out what he thinks is a cool moment. You can't just pretend that the game has never got it right with the big special entrance, because sometimes he does okay. WrestleMania 21's Motorhead live performance was an all-timer arrival. His glass smash at Mania 25 was the best thing about that Randy Orton flop. But there have been a few stinkers in there too. Perhaps the most hilariously stupid of the lot came at the 31st show of shows. This being the same year that Terminator Genesis released, WWE promoted that film via the King of Kings entrance for his showdown with Sting. This wasn't just a case of showing a quick trailer and having Tripp sledgehammer a few T-800s though. Nope. The cerebral assassin became part king, part silver machine that night. And it looked just as goofy as it sounds. Not even the presence of the legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger in a short mid-entrance clip could save this deeply uncool sequence. All of it, from the awkward way he was raised up high on a platform alongside some robots, to the stupid monocle mask of doom he no doubt fully approved of, terminated Papa H's aura before the bell had even rung. Number 5. Cody Rhodes' giant skull session. While on the subject of absurd skull mitts on the grandest stage, Cody Rhodes took a page out of his favorite wrestler's book at WrestleMania XL or 40. Say it how you want. This was easily the biggest night of the American Nightmare's career. The moment he'd finally reached the top of the mountain and finished that damn story. He didn't exactly get off to the strongest of starts though, as Rhodes rose up through the Codyvator to reveal a shiny new addition to his Nightmare entrance, bringing the American Nightmare tattoo stamped on his neck to life. The brilliant Jason Baker, who designed the Fiend's menacing face, crafted something that would likely look stunning in a glass case. Sat on top of the soon-to-be WWE Champion's head though? Nah, not so much. The proportions were just a little bit off. The giant's winged skull making Cody look like a real-life Funko Pop figure. Now everything else about Rhodes' arrival that night in Philly was near perfect. The fire and nightmare flags, his beloved Brandy by his side, and Kingdom blaring out around a packed stadium. It's just a shame that the entrance then had a decent amount of cool point shaved off due to this weird bobblehead look. Number 4, Shane McMahon so many times. There was definitely a point in time there when Shane McMahon could actually be classed as a relatively cool dude. As the young son of the boss in his earlier years in WWE, he threw himself into some absolutely insane scenarios, falling off very tall things and being thrown through actual glass by Olympians, building a reputation as quite the daredevil who could be relied upon to create many a jaw-dropping moment. There was even something a little bit awesome about seeing him return to take on The Undertaker at WrestleMania 32 and dive off of Hell in a Cell. For much of his time in WWE post-Mania 32 though, the C word was the last thing that sprung to mind when talking about Shano. Well, not that one anyway. No matter how hard he tried. Whether he was throwing his shoot punches that looked terrible but still hurt more than your average worked shot, trying to make his edgy Raw Underground a thing, or attempting to prove he could still go with the best of them, or The Miz at least, Shane made unintentionally looking like an egomaniacal clown his specialty. And if his surprise WrestleMania 39 return and subsequent embarrassing mishap are his final ever moments on a WWE show, at least they were memorable, eh? Number 3, Jon Moxley and his Death Riders go from terrifying badasses to goofy villains. Make no mistake, on his day, Jon Moxley can be one of the most badass, effortlessly cool humans walking planet Earth, as a heel or a face. Very few of those days have occurred over the last few months, however, at time of recording anyway. Now his time as the leader of the Death Riders got off to a promising / horrifying start, attempting to murder Bryan Danielson and taking the AEW World Championship hostage. So far, so genuinely quite cold and terrifying. However, as the months have agonizingly passed by, the Death Riders' mission to save AEW has become increasingly embarrassing and difficult to watch. There's been a number of moments when the unit have felt more like dumb cartoon antagonists that leave your eyes rolling rather than intimidating thugs you can't take your eyes off. But Mox & Co. tying up the Rock and Roll Express in one of the silliest segments of the year on Collision, yeah, that was probably the Ard group's lowlight up to this point. It may have gotten worse by the time I've recorded this, I don't know. They may have thought they looked like unstoppable menaces here, but in truth they resembled childish teens playing a prank on their elders. It was not a good look. And each new rambling Moxley promo, unimaginative beatdown, and ridiculous backstage attack is making the group and the entire storyline harder and harder to take seriously. When your fans are praying for the reset button to be hit every single week, whatever you're doing simply is not working, Tony. Number 2, Adam Cole's Master Chief. Wrestlers saluting their favorite video games and characters during their entrances has become pretty commonplace, hasn't it? Some of these tributes look undeniably awesome, like New Day's colorful Gears of War costumes, Kenny Omega's epic Final Fantasy gear, and Jade Cargill's Mortal Kombat look. Others, though, not so much. Sadly, Adam Cole's dream of finally becoming the Master Chief falls into that latter category. The former NXT champion is a gigantic fan of the Halo series, and has been since he was a kid. Hell, his wrestling team even ran out to the game's iconic theme. Yeah, I bet that was pretty cool. So, Cole likely felt like he could take down an entire army of aliens all by himself when he showed off his Master Chief-inspired look at AEW Revolution 2022. His face told the story of a lad living out a childhood dream, that's for sure. However, the clunky gear itself, which consisted of only a chest plate and arm protection, just didn't look all that great, did it? Instead of making folks think of the badass Spartan he was paying tribute to, images of Buzz Lightyear likely sprang to mind. Now, obviously, cosplaying as a massive, super cool soldier known for wearing chunky green armor is always going to be a tough thing to pull off. But yeah, this wasn't it. While Cole probably loved every single minute he spent looking like he'd forgotten his Spartan trousers for his big AEW World Championship match against Hangman Adam Page, those watching on were left wincing at the gear equivalent of he didn't quite get all of it. The Halo-inspired trunks and knee pads, however, not bad at all. Number 1, Triple H welcomes you to the Netflix era. That man again. Whether you're a fan of the guy or not, there's no getting away from the fact that Paul Levesque has had a huge part to play in the unbelievable success WWE are currently experiencing. He's evidently helped create a more positive environment backstage, and given his audience precisely what they want more often than not. Every now and then, though, Papa H just can't help himself. It doesn't matter that he's no longer able to throw down in between the the ropes, the former world champion still finds a way to squeeze himself into the spotlight, doesn't he? And earn a few cheap pops in the process. Take WWE's huge Netflix debut earlier this year. After once again voicing another promo package patting himself and the company on the back, Trips appeared in the middle of the Monday Night Raw ring and began delivering a speech he undoubtedly felt was as epic as the stage he was standing on. It wasn't. It was actually hilarious for all the wrong reasons. Trips took the time to tell the 17,000 in attendance to show the globe who they were, while they were completely blacked out and the spotlight was firmly on him. Awkward. That will sadly be the last ever monotonous, accidentally comical rah-rah speech we hear from the game too, as he was suddenly blown up in an extravagant pyro explosion shortly after. If you've enjoyed this list today, then tap on this wonderful 10 most humiliating wrestling moves one as well, because trust me, it's just as fun. Bye bye.